So, multiple light sources is actually not as different than you think compared to just having one light source. You just need to identify which source is the strongest. This is called having a primary versus a secondary light source, or secondary light sources, right? Multiple secondary light sources if you decide to have more than one. You know what? Let's draw Kirby. Let's draw my boy. So let's say that I've got my main light source is coming from here. Let's say that I've got one right here. That's my primary. Let's say that I've got one coming from down here, 2.1. And then let's say that I've got one coming from here, 2.2. Let's say that number 1 is my strongest one. Let's say that it's coming slightly from behind. Let's say that it's a warm light source. So I'm gonna use my warm yellow. So I'm gonna come in with my indigo-ish color. Let's say that we've got a bit of shadow happening like this. So 2.1, let's say that 2.1 is a light source that's like pink. Let's say that we've got a little pink light source going on in here. So it's going to be slightly bounced on the bottom of these, right? Wherever we think that the light is going to hit, it's going to come down here as well. It's going to be within the shadow, right? Because really, shadow is just an absence of light. If we have an area that has light being hit, the shadow's gonna disappear. So really, our secondary light source is gonna add that light back in where there was none. And let's say we've got our tertiary light source, our third light source, which is also slightly from behind, and it's this light blue. It will also show up within the shadow. Right, it actually won't be over here, but it's just slightly on the edge there, right? Shadow is just an absence of light. By adding secondary sources, you no longer have shadow. So the same principles as other shadows, just find the light source and hit only the effective objects. The only things you don't have to worry about now are just worrying about your core shadows and stuff like that, because your main light source will have taken care of that. Because these are weaker, they won't have as much of an influence as, say, your primary light source.
If you'd like to support the channel and the creation of free arts education, become a member on Patreon for working files, behind-the-scenes posts, and discounts on our class offerings.
This demo was actually for my digital art students, where the objective was to draw someone in neon lighting. It was required to have at least 2 light sources, though I did recommend just sticking to 2. The interesting thing about neon lighting most of the time is that even though we can still consider one light source our main one and another one our secondary, more often than not people use this type of lighting in the dark. Thus, both lights have around the same amount of power. When set up, the lights are usually placed in opposition to one another, because if we had them both come from similar points, the light colors would just mix. What happens then? That's a different topic for another day. In this case, I worked with one of my favorite neon light combos, pink and cyan, second only to red and cyan. I decided to work with pink as my main light source and have cyan be my secondary for no reason other than that I tend to like the look of a blue-toned bounce light. What else is going to be a bit funky about this demo is that this character specifically doesn't have a natural skin tone. Pierce is an Eladrin elf, so he's got green skin in his spring form, but that doesn't change much, especially since this isn't a lighting type where subsurface scattering is going to be much of an issue. If you don't know what subsurface scattering is, be sure to check out our video on that, links in the description. Teaching a class means I have a limited amount of time to complete the demo, so I tend to resort to a lot of very quick techniques to get my point across. It's no different in this case, since this piece is going to be in the dark. It'll be a lot faster to throw a multiply layer over everything and work from there. Night's darkness isn't created as a reaction to any kind of light, so in reality I can pick any tinted hue I'd like, but my default tends to be a purplish blue since it's what I'd use if the sun was out anyway. As for the light sources, I decided that the primary pink would be closer to the front and left of him, while the secondary cyan would be behind and to the right of him. I wanted these lights to be pretty harsh and overpowering, so I went with a hard light layer to illustrate that. More often than not, instead of using a hard light layer, I tend to use a soft light layer, or I tend to use screen. I kind of like the look of those two, but hard light specifically for this piece. The cyan being behind Pierce means that I can do a bit of subsurface scattering on the ear. Ears tend to be pretty thin and translucent, so any kind of subsurface scattering can get pretty powerful around those areas. The ears, tip of the nose, and the chin tend to be the most prominent places where subsurface happens, so the thinnest part of the skin tends to be the most prominent places where subsurface scattering occurs. Pierce has those long elven ears, so subsurface scattering is bound to happen behind them. Like I mentioned, shading with 2 light sources isn't too different from shading with just one. You just need to pick which one is more powerful and use the others to highlight your main one. My biggest piece of advice would be to take it slow, really think about what secondary light is actually going to be visible, and use reference. We love art nerds at Wing Canvas, and these videos exist because of our awesome community. Is there a topic you want to see us make a video about? Let us know in the comments below.
Join a virtual class to learn live from our professional artists. Get creative assignments, individual guidance, and real-time feedback on your artwork. Start today and level up your practice. If you learned something new, like and share this with a fellow art nerd.
Here's a couple other videos you can check out next.